Hey, welcome back to Bridal Sewing Techniques, and today we're going to talk about how to make a filtering mask. I hear you. My email has been blowing up with requests for me to do a DIY follow along that is more detailed in how to sew your own mask. At the same time, please keep in mind this is normally a bridal sewing channel. So to all of my faithful BSD besties out there, I promise you I'm going to continue to upload quality bridal themed content. But right now, I do feel like it's part of my service to the world, to the sewing community in general, to be uploading these videos as needed and as requested. Let's go. Are you someone who has experience with a mix of sewing but is looking to get into the bridal sewing niche? This channel is for you. Hit subscribe to become a part of the community. Everyone learns and follows along at a different pace. So if you want this to go faster, just in the settings, change it to 200% speed, or just double the speed, or whatever's comfortable for you. If you want to go slower or you miss something, hit pause or back up and replay. So basically, I'm just prepping all of the pieces that I need to get this project together. This pattern is on my blog. Now I'm marking the fold lines directly onto the fabrics. All of the links to whatever you need are going to be in the video description below the video. So basically, if you see my video, you look down below it and you see the name of my channel, Bridal Sewing Techniques, with the little icon beside it. With the lace in it, the little avatar, or whatever you want to call it. Right below it, it'll say show more. Click on that and it'll give you a drop down menu, and you can read lots of information in that. The other previous videos, I could tell a lot of people that are watching these videos are not familiar with YouTube and how it works. But there's always lots of typed up information in the video description below the video of my videos. So I add commonly asked questions. I add the answers down there for you. If you have a question, leave it in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer you or update the video description. Right now I'm gesturing to the tops of the pattern. I marked the top just like the pattern says. I'm making sure the pleats are on the outer edge. Now when I'm sewing, I'm going to make sure that my stitch length is as small as possible so that we get a really tight stitch. That's not going to make this, airtight or, virus proof or anything like that. We definitely need to go back over it with a low temp glue gun. Every line of stitches that we do for this project is going to be sewn back over with a low temp glue gun on at least one layer of your project. This layer is optional. I am putting, or rather this step is optional. I'm putting some horsehair braid in, this is the part of the mask that protrudes from the face. I'm putting some horsehair braid in there just because I like the mask to have a little more body, a little more form in the front, so that when you breathe, it doesn't just collapse into your mouth, because it's a pretty tight weave on this mask. So you'll see the sides of the mask going in and out as you breathe, but the front of the mask does not, with this horsehair braid in there. Now, if I were to have a do-over on this, I would go ahead and seal that seam of the filter layer. The blue layer is the filter layer. I would go ahead and seal that with a low temp glue gun at this step before I sewed these together. I do later run a bead of that low temp glue gun over the outer seams later on in the video, but I probably would have doubled up if I had a do-over on this. Now what I'm doing is I'm just attaching the top of the mask and the bottom of the mask to one another. So just to recap, I have sewn all of the nose placket pieces together, or flap. It's technically a flap, but it just sounds weird to say nose flap. So I kind of zazzled it up and used the word placket, which is not entirely 100% appropriate here. But hey, when am I ever 100% appropriate? All right, so I'm gesturing to the top of the mask, and now we're going to be putting some of these tucks in here. And basically, the way you do it, you want to make sure that the tucks are facing down. That way you're not catching debris and whatnot, through the force of gravity just falling on you, or God forbid, a spray of someone coughing or sneezing near you. And so I'm going to tuck these as I go. If you want to tuck them first, check it out and pin them in place, you can. Just make sure your pins are not used anywhere within the whole body of the mask. Make sure they're only used on the very, very edge. But you can see how all these pleats and tucks are facing down. So I'm just going to sew these together. Keep in mind, the goal of this filtering mask is better than a bandana, okay? That's what we're going for. We're going for something where if you were to cough or sneeze, it's going to catch your droplets, most of them, the larger droplets, and it's going to minimize the viral load that's in the spray. Now, I do want to show you some of these pleats I did backwards. I want to show you how you fix them, because inevitably you're probably going to do a pleat backwards. So all you're going to do is release that stitch, make sure you don't cut your mask, and then flip it the opposite way and then sew it. So don't get frustrated or overly concerned about, are your pleats going the correct direction? It doesn't matter if you make a mistake. You can easily flip them afterward. And now I'm going to lay that nose placket in there. I don't know that it matters if the filter is facing out or towards you in this case. I did talk to the filter fabric supplier, and they said it really doesn't matter. You can have your own personal goals about where you want the filter fabric to be, which direction you want it facing, and all that. The jury's kind of out on that. All right, so I'm going to bind this mask. This is optional. Right now, if you're done, if you're not normally a sewer and you are just done with the sewing, you can skip this part and just make sure you do that low temp glue gun all along the edges, or you could bind it with the same strip of fabric, but maybe put it on with the low temp glue gun. You don't want to be pressing the metal tip to the filter fabric too much, because you don't want to break that down and melt it or injure it in any way. That's the reason why we're using low temp. The high temp could possibly melt or change the capacity of the fabric to do its job. So I'm going to go around right now. I'm just sewing right sides together, and then I'm going to flip it. Generally, when you're binding something, you want this step to be overreaching your original line of stitches that are encircling your project, the one that we use to put the pleats in and to sew the two layers together. I'm just keeping this really close to the edge, so it's not going to be as pretty and as significant looking as normal binding is in fashion, just because I want as much of the mask to be uncompromised with stitching as possible. So now you're going to flip it, flip all that binding to the inside of the mask. It looks quite neat already, doesn't it? And that horsehair braid, I really think it does add. The horsehair braid is nylon and it's washable. As far as care of this fabric, when I was talking to the filter fabric manufacturers, they said you're just going to hand wash it with just a antibacterial soap. Yes, I know we're facing down a virus right now, but as you wear it, you do also get dirt and bacteria and all kinds of disgusting things on it. So just hand wash it and lay it aside to dry. The idea for this is mainly you're going to want to make some for yourself or, you know, your loved one or whatever, 5 or 10 of them, and you're going to rotate them out. So you're going to allow them to air dry in a place, you know, a closet or something that's free from any sneezes or coughs from anyone else. The current news, which, as you know, changes hourly. Okay, it's April 1st, 2020. The current news is that on fabric, certainly if you give it a day, it should be, the virus should be completely dead. But again, you need to research that for the current news when you watch this. But definitely within a few hours, almost all of it has expired on a virus, on a fabric. So that's good news. So it's good to just wash these and rotate them out. I have not baked this. There's also news of baking at 150 for 30 minutes to sanitize. I've not tried baking this fabric. Here we go with putting the low temp glue on every stitch, okay? Every stitch needs to be sealed with this. This is another reason why you don't want to aggressively wash this mask. You don't want to loosen up the seal of this glue. If ever you're in doubt, you could always reactivate it with a low hair dryer and then re-glue it. I'm getting down inside the pleats as well. Get it in all of the nooks and crannies. That's a southern thing here. You got to look out for those nooks, but you really got to look out for those crannies, okay? Don't miss the cranny. So here I am sealing the seam. Again, I was saying I probably would have done it on the inner seam also if I had this as a do-over. Now I'm going to show you 2 different ways to attach this elastic strap. I'm using 13-inch long pieces of elastic that are about 1/2 inch wide. You just use what you have. You can use even just ties with ribbon if you want, right? Now, I know a lot of the other mask designs actually hook over the ear. I'm putting this elastic where it goes around the back of the head for a couple of reasons. I wear glasses and the behind the ear one just doesn't work great for me. Also, I'm kind of sensitive behind my ears, and if I have it hooked behind my ears, it's going to give me a headache if I have it hooked as tightly as these masks need to be hooked. So when I wear this, I kind of make a crisscross. You can see it in the pictures that I have of the mask on the dress form, the mannequin. But I kind of crisscross, so the lower elastic goes up on my head and the upper elastic goes down toward the top of my neck. And I try to get a very tight pull with this mask. It's pulling back and it's giving me a very good seal. If you see nurses take their mask off, they have the imprint of the mask on their face, and I have that as well when I take my mask off. Now, this is the second way of sewing the elastic on. I told you I'd show you two different ways. The one way has just the ends of the elastic facing forward. This way, you can sew it almost backward to that, where the raw ends are facing toward your ears, so to speak. Then you flip it back and sew it again. So it gives you this neater nub facing forward instead of the raw elastic, which may be cleaner, right? It's certainly a cleaner look. But it's also 2 steps of sewing. And I found when it came time to glue it, I felt like it was a little more tricky to really get the glue around the straps. So I showed you 2 different choices there, and you can pick which way you feel happier with. Now, here's the nose piece and how it works. Basically, it's not sewn to the inside of the mask, right? It's just sewn along the edge. But that is enough for whatever you do with that nose piece. It kind of forces the mask to conform to that shape. So that is working for me. Now here we go again, getting all of those nooks and crannies with the low temp glue gun. You can imagine you can also do the filter fabric as your lining fabric, and then your outer fabric could be some type of 100% cotton that's super cute. You could do lots of creative, beautiful things with this. You could also make the most natural choice and go with 100% organic cotton. If you read up on all the chemicals that are in regular printed cotton, it's kind of scary. So if you're just a little on the granola side, go for the organic cotton, since you're going to be breathing through it and wearing it against your face, right? Well, I hope this has helped you. Please, if you have any questions, read the video description first, then leave them in the comment section down below, and let me know your thoughts about this. I wish you all well. Thank you for watching. I know what you're looking for. You've been sewing for years, but you want to get into full-time bridal sewing. But there's something missing. You're missing the backroom secrets, the industry tips and tricks. The tools, the sources, the techniques that give you the speed and the accuracy that the industry demands. You have found it.